through network, just from many years of selling houses as an agent. People know me now as a real estate person. And then now that I began investing, since 2010, they began to know me as having the ability to maybe buy their home or help someone in a situation that needs me to purchase their home as is. So that's helped a lot too. Network and just to going direct to sellers.
And then you also when you take on sellers, you also do the staging process with them, or do that?
Only sometimes when it's needed. So I called in there's a couple of good local stagers that I've used. Those are more on traditional sellers. Mm-hmm. There's light staging, which they do, and there's a full-on staging. The light staging I do implement on the flips that I do. But what I did was my fiance, she's an agent, she assists me. She likes that stuff. So instead of us paying someone to do light staging, we just went and bought the stuff for like Big Lots and some of the Marshalls and stuff and just implemented it in the homes. And it looks good, and I don't have to pay for it every time. It paid for itself, probably 1 or 2 flips.
That's great. Feel free to unmute yourselves if you have any questions as we go as well. Now, your choice of using the corporation as opposed to LLCs, how's that different, and how does that work for you?
For me, I took the advice of my CPA. I didn't do much. It wasn't done more so as a liability. It was just done more for structuring as myself as an agent. I'm paid through my broker directly to my corporation, S Corp, and then also I take title as the corp. It allows me to reduce my tax liability. Obviously, my CPA helps me with that. I still pay taxes, but it allows me to pass through the corporation and pass it to me personally. So it's been beneficial in that way.
Like for paying yourself a salary and the expenses and
exactly.
All that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me from an investment standpoint, why did you decide to flip rather than purchase and hold?
Great question, Tom. At the time when I began to flip, if I would at the time when I began investing, if I were to invest or buy a rental, I would have locked up all my money, and then I would have, which would be okay because that rental would be great right now, but I'd be one and done with a rental. So I needed to keep building my reserves, keep flipping it, and keep that money growing to a point where I can leave 20-30% in a home as a rental, and then go recoup that through another flip and through selling houses as an agent.
In the minds of you and your CPA, are you paying more taxes by flipping than holding?
Yes, yes, I would say so. Yeah, I haven't held one, so I can't speak for sure, but I'm definitely paying heavier taxes on flipping.
Could you, or did you ever think about buying? And then, when you could do this, I don't. The opportunity today is not as great as it used to be. Buying, do whatever changes to the home you wanted to do, then refi. So you're holding, you've got a portion of your money out, and then go find something else. Taking into consideration the taxes you're going to pay if you flip it, as compared to if you don't flip it, you're not going to be paying those taxes. Did you ever compare those dollars?
Not when I began, but within the last year and a half, the exact method that you're explaining to me, they like to call it the BRRRR, buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. That is my number one priority right now. So my goal is to find a property, whether buying it with private money or my own money, renovate it, refinance, pull all the money out, hopefully all my money, the purchase price plus renovation, and do exactly what you said. So the answer to that is yes, that is my goal now, but not prior, because I wasn't introduced to that method. I always thought the 20-30% down, and it has to make sense from that point. So I didn't think about it in that method.
And George, what was that?
What I think from the standpoint of when we're younger and we get involved with what we consider the real estate investment business, and we flip and we pay the taxes as compared to trying to find a way to come up with purchase, upgrade and hold through refinancing. In fact, I'll ask you, I'll change that around. If you had it to do all over again, you think you would have taken a different approach?
Yes, I would have got, oh, good. I'm sorry. I would have got out of just the flip only mindset and done exactly sooner what we're talking about, what you're talking about right now.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Yeah. So now I feel like I'm playing catch up because now I need to find these properties that we're talking about that have good enough margin where I can refinance tax free, basically what you're saying.
Somebody's taking advantage of all your hard work. Those houses that you brought up to speed, they look real well, and you refinanced them. No, I'm sorry, you didn't refinance them. You sold them. You paid the taxes. The federal government's happy. That new buyer's happy. Now you got to go find yourself another job. Right.
It's just you're only as good as my last project.
That's right.
But what he was saying is the good news about investing is that you could always start, new and do that. Because sometimes it's really hard when you get started, to have all the credit, the income, especially as a self-employed individual, to be able to have that time of, showing that you are having a return, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly that. And go ahead. I think someone was saying something. Sorry, I thought someone was saying something. But yeah, Tom brings up really good points, and yeah, that's I think Carmen, I don't know if it's a typo, but I think you typed in the BIRD method.
BY.
BRRRR basically for the buy, renovate, refinance, buy, renovate, rent, refinance, because it's going to take you 6 months to get a permanent financing loan, and then repeat basically. And
Exactly.
Sometimes I've learned this method through masterminding and through coaching. I didn't know about this until it was introduced to me and proof of concept was shown to me. I've seeked out coaching and watched other investors how they do this. It's nothing new, but to me it was. I didn't understand it. So there's little. If you leave some money in the deal, it's still a burr. But the goal is to pull all your money out and still have cash flow. And the bonus is what I'm being taught is if it's in an area of high appreciation. But for me, if I can pull everything out and still have some cash flow, I'd be happy. And they teach us in our market. They ask us, and I say they is my people I coach with, and I can leave the link to who I work with. They ask us, what's your number? What is your number of properties that if your personal obligations are free and clear, how many properties you need to own paid off that could support you comfortably when you no longer have the choice to work. So I told them I figured that out, and my number was 7 homes paid off free and clear for the average rent in Fresno. That was my number, and that's my goal, which is going to take some time because they have to be paid down, but at least it gives me a vision and a goal in mind.
So that's smart.
And Josh, you said it was buy, renovate, and what?
So buy, renovate, rent it out. It's like, and then refinance it. So you pull it into permanent, and then you just repeat the process.
Right.
I was blown away. I thought this is something new, but apparently people have been doing it for a long time, but there's always something to learn. So I'm glad I was introduced to it, and I'm glad Tom reinforced it.
But Josh, was 7 just a magic number for you or for everybody, or just depends upon your unique situation? Oh
yeah, no, that's just for me personally. So that number translates, if just to be upfront, it translates in if this is paid off. So 7 houses accumulates to me roughly $10,000 a month net. So if everything else is paid free and clear, cars and house, I mean, I could probably live on less than that, but they just said comfortably and be able to still do a few things. I said 7 in my head would equal $10,000 a month to live comfortably, no other debts or anything.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
And I agree with that method. When I started investing a long time ago, I used to move every 2 years. And the reason for that was that I could sell and not pay capital gains, but moving every 2 years was kind of rough. luckily when you don't have children, it's easier. But once you have children, you have to settle down and stop doing that. But it was very nice. I remember at one point between when the market hit, the top, between 2004 to 2006, I sold 3 properties and probably was close to 900,000 in, free monies, for us. So
Yeah,
that was
that's
very
awesome.
nice.
Yeah, I bet that's a smart move. I've seen people, and us as realtors, they move out of their primary, and then they move back into their non-primary, live there for 2 years and do exactly what you did. So another strategic way I've seen.
Yeah.
Can I mention something real quick?
Yeah, feel free.
And it goes back to where Tom asked if I could do something different. I would encourage anyone, I think most of us are realtors here, and if not, that's fine. But as a real estate agent, the lure and the attraction of, I see flips. That's a better way for me to do business and to be in real estate. I made the mistake of doing a flip, and I was still new as a real estate agent, but I saw the opportunity. I took my foot off the gas as a real estate agent where I had momentum going, and I focused solely on the flip. I'd go by the house every day, watch what's going on and learning. But at the same time, it was taking me away from what my daily duties were as an agent and from, income that could have been coming in while waiting for a flip, because I was only doing one, and it took me 6 months to do my first flip. And it really took the momentum out of what could have been feeding me to buy more houses, and probably could add to me having some rentals today. So keep your foot on the gas is what I'm saying.
I want to back up to something Carmen said, my very dear friend. I graduated from San Diego State University back in 1970. And I started to work in the mortgage business, making mortgage loans, but I also started to work. I bought my first house. It was a condominium right on the beach in San Diego. Bought it for, I'd say around $30,000. Then I bought one across the street for about the same price. I stayed down there for a few years. The bank I was with transferred me up to Northern California, up to near San Francisco to take over a lending region. I finally decided, I'm not down there. It's not doing me any good to keep those houses. So the $32,000 house I sold for $48,000, and the other one that I bought I sold for $52,000. Now, needless to say, I didn't come out of there with a hell of a lot of money. But Carmen, from what you said, either one of those places, the cheapest one of those two, is worth $750,000, and I didn't have to sell them. And I can guarantee you the amount of money that you can get tax-free, and I think it's up to $250,000 to $500,000. Let me tell you what, I fell way short. I think I made about 10,000 maybe, and now I would make at least 700,000. So I think sometimes we make decisions in regards to our investments that are short run decisions that'll give us $10,000 at the expense of hundreds of thousands of dollars in the future, and we think we're doing something. See, it's kind of like, one of the philosophers said, land and housing, let's say, they ain't building no more. That's exactly what's going on, and our population is ever increasing. And I can tell you unequivocally, I've owned a lot of houses in my life. I've lost money on every house I've sold.
Dawn and I were talking about that. I think it was last weekend, last Saturday. But did you really lose money though? And sometimes, what we do, the decisions we make at a given point will propel us to where we are and, the things we can invest in the future. So for me,
yes.
Selling those properties at that given point was a great move for me because let's face it, 2004 to 2006, the prices were incredible, and I could not get those prices right now, even if I tried. So, you know, with those, I did invest in other properties and still have most of all those properties. But like Josh says, knowing what your number would be to break even and be able to, the way I see it is being able to, my rentals pay for all of my mortgages, all of my bills, so I don't have to worry about any of that. And, you know, being in the real estate business and selling is a fun thing for me to do, and it's kind of secondary, although, you know, I spend probably more than 40 hours a week working in it.
Well, just remember, being in the real estate business as an agent and coming and becoming an overnight success as an investor is virtually impossible. It's kind of like, how can I come to Fresno and make $100,000? No, it's a bad joke, but in any event, once you've got that piece of property and knowing that there ain't going to be any more, this is it. And there's going to be demands all the time. And, you know, the bottom line is you really don't need the money. You can always get owner-occupied financing done as around here, but the amount of money that it'll cost you to go into an owner-occupied residence as compared to selling and allowing yourself to continue to upgrade. And I think you can upgrade without selling. Now you see why Don Scordino, he knows better than to sell a piece of property and let me find out about it, because I'll go see him. I tell you, it's one of the biggest mistakes that we as young people make. We make that sell houses too prematurely, and we do it all.
You know, Tom, my excuse is I was young. That was 5 years ago.
Yeah, I'll never forget it.
Yeah, I know. You'll never let me forget either. But you don't look back.
You're right.
Hey, Josh. This is Vince here. When you started your entity at the beginning, did you incorporate it in Fresno?
So I barely incorporated in 2018, and it was a California corporation, legal Zoom, just real simple.
Okay. Now, how do you obtain funding for that initially? Do you put your money into the corporation and start start buying property, or how does that work?
I think it's just more of a formality of how you're structured more so. I don't, I'm the sole shareholder, sole owner. So there wasn't really, maybe I did it the wrong way, but I just formed the corporation and went from there, got the bank account. So there wasn't really anything that I had to raise capital for or anything like that.
And
so it's basically your funds and your initial funds at the beginning. Did you put did you put your personal funds into the corporation and start buying property? I'm just curious how that worked.
I think, are you asking like when I first began? Is that kind of what you mean? Oh, so when I first began, I was just taking title. I was partnered. I was taking title as an individual. The money used was from savings and also from selling real estate for about 2.5 years before I did my own flip. So selling real estate enabled me to buy some real estate short term. If that answers your question.
Yes, it does. I just had an investor there. He's looking to invest in Dayton, Ohio, and he asked me if I want to partner with him, and we were thinking about opening up an LLC or some kind of. So I just wondering, do we put the funds into the LLC, and then when we buy the property, we just have title in the LLC or the S corporation, like you said?
I would probably say to speak with a tax consultant on that, or if anyone else in this group has more advice. I personally couldn't, I wouldn't be best to answer that for you because I don't know, to be honest with you, on that part.
Josh, was there a reason why you went just to be incorporated versus an LLC or other type of way to put your property into a fund or something like that?
I just went strictly off what my CPA told me. He advised me to go to corporate under S Corp. I've tried to read and study it as much as I can and why, but at the end, I just trusted his advice on that, and it's worked out so far for me. I don't know how much liability-wise it would really protect me because I believe it could always be pierced the corporation, but I just trusted his advice on that and went with that.
And I think that probably makes sense if you're going to be partnering and doing most of the work, unless you do separate projects with different people. But what I like about what Josh did is that you became the corporation and are doing these flips, you know, on your own with partner.
Yes, so I've done some on my own as of, you know, prior to 2020, I was partnered up and we were taking titles as individuals, and later my partner at the time would take under his corp and I would take it under my corp. It just made things easier, especially if you have a spouse and you know, you're signing, they're not always having to sign off on things, and for me it just made things simpler, and to now I'm still doing it, and again it funnels the commissions from the brokerage, it goes all to the corporation and everything under one. Now my way may not be the best way. I just took the advice of my CPA from there.
You still investing in partnerships, or are you just strictly investing on your own at this point?
I've done 5 projects this year. 3 of them have been solo, and 2 I've been partnered with. The partnership is more. I've partnered with my subcontractor who handles a lot of the work, so it was a smart move for me because he handles pretty much everything as the project manager. Some of the better ones, I shouldn't say better, but some of the more juicy or attractive deals, if I can take it down on my own and I'm comfortable, then I will. And partnering with him has allowed me not to raise private money, which was kind of eating into my costs a little bit because I was buying smaller margin deals. So that's one thing, is I've been focusing on trying to raise my standards and buy higher margin deals.
And not only that, but splitting the liability, you know, the work.
Right. Yeah. So when I tell people this, I always say, I don't say this I'm not saying this in a boastful way, but it's gone to the point where I can literally, when we get the property, as long as we've done our due diligence, walk through and we know what we're doing, I can handle a lot from my cell phone, from texting and just pictures, and then they can take it from there. And then for fun, I'll check on the project maybe more than once a week, but I like to just, you know, focus on the day-to-day stuff that I'm doing, and then just do some quality checks and make sure some stuff is in place. So working on a project now in the Tower District that I'm in the process of acquiring. We went by and checked on it, and there's 2 people sleeping in the home. So I'm glad I had my partner with me, because there's two guys in there. We got him out of there, but you know, those things, you run into it sometimes. But it's good to have someone that can help you on those things, so I'm not always out there doing everything myself.
Is that listed, or did you find it on your own?
I found it on my own. I was actually trying to purchase a property from the owner, who now is deceased. I was trying to purchase a property from him at the time. He deceased. He passed. Someone else bought it, and he owns a portfolio of properties. And I was able to get in touch with the trustee, and this one I was able to get into contract and close hopefully next week.
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the things that I concluded a long time ago. Certainly, I'm glad I'm in the real estate industry. I really enjoy being here, and I'm glad I'm an investor. But for me to believe that as a realtor, as an investor, you have overnight success, it's a pipe dream. Mm-hmm. Take it slowly, surely, in control. Good advice from your CPA. and you're going to be okay. And I don't have to make, I'd love to make, let's say the first year, $1 million, but I'd probably be the only new agent in Fresno that decided to be an investor that made $1 million. And I'd probably within itself be world renowned, but it takes a while. And a lot of time we as agents aren't interested in applying our time. We just want to get, we'd like to buy a piece of property, fix it up, flip it, and go on to the next property and let somebody else make the money on our hard work. Never again.
Wise words.
Yeah. Go ahead, Susan.
This is Susan. I have a question. Going back to where you very first started, you said you had put some money aside, you saved money for a while, and then you bought your first house. Did you pay cash or was there any financing involved?
So I did partner with someone, so that helped for the half of the cost. And it was purchased with our own funds, cash. The price at the time was $89,000 for the home, so a lot less than what you may find now for a fixer. And to go half, and if you're selling real estate, and if your overhead's low and you're managing yourself, it's in 2 years I was able to do so.
Okay. Another question. I have 2 rentals we purchased years ago and have not made a profit on them at all. We just purchased them and we have we still owe on them, and the rents are not high enough to be able to pay them off any sooner. What would be the best way to continue investing? Would we sell one of them and put that money into another home?
There might be some other people that deal with the rentals here. I'm like Tom, that might have some better advice or different advice. But the way this is from people I talk to that are more rental heavy is, and this may not work for a single family. Sometimes they improve the home and they slowly, can see if they're off on the rents, if they can be raised a little bit. But again, there's, it's a little hard to do that now, but I think that's a personal question. You probably have to look at, what would you get out of it if you sold it, and what would you stand to get? Because it may be a wash if you go buy another property and go from it. After all, everything's said and done, the costs and acquiring fees.
Okay.
When you say you bought them and you've owned them a long time, what's a long time?
About 8 to 10 years.
Okay, well, that's not too long, right? That's pretty good, and they're taking care of themselves. You say you're not making any money, but you are. Both those houses, I'm certain, and I've never seen the tax return, but I'm betting that there's a paper loss on your taxes because of those 2 rentals. And unfortunately, we allowed this year to come stick its ugly head up from the standpoint of the limitations that we have as investors in doing cash out refis. A couple of years ago, refinancing that property, pull cash out, and continue to invest probably would have been a better approach. But that ship's already sailed. So believe you me, you're not losing money. You're making money. You're making money every year. I'm believing. Because if you've owned it for 8 years and you've rented it for 8 years, taking into consideration that big D word, depreciation, you're not losing money. I wouldn't think.
Well, maybe if her rent is, say, $1,000 and the payment is $1,200, just to say that, that could be a problem. But you can still refinance if you're not pulling out money. I would probably call your mortgager that you are dealing with right now and see if they would refinance you on those. If you kept them and you have to pull any money out.
Okay, thank you.
Could I comment on that? Back in the early 90s, we had a kind of a subtle recession, but it wasn't too subtle to me, and because I had started 10 years earlier buying properties. And all of a sudden, my values went down. My rents went down. I had one place over by Woodward Park that I was renting for $1,000 a month. Now I could only get 800 when I had to turn it over. So negative cash flow was killing me. But I was too stubborn to lose. I stuck it out. And then the CPA gave me some good advice. I told him, I said, man, Tom, I don't think I'm too smart here. Look at all this I lost. And he said, you're smarter than you think. And he showed me the depreciation. At the end of the day, I saved enough money on my taxes to offset my losses out of pocket. So depreciation certainly helped, but also today I'm sitting pretty. So sometimes time has a lot to do with it. Put the time in and be too stubborn to lose. That's not good advice.
It is.
Well, come on, Tom, think about yourself. You are Mr. Stubborn.
Watch out. My wife hears you saying those kind words.
Yeah.
So I take it now, Josh, you'll be looking to hold some properties then?
That's my goal. I even want my short-term goal is to acquire one by the end of the year, and then obviously 2021 go from there.
Yeah, it's really rough right now to find anything out there, even with sellers. Forget about the MLS with all the competition.
Yes, yeah, and the temptation is there. I've out of state stuff, but I'm more of a local guy. I like to see and feel things, at least for my first round of properties, and then I can expand from there. But I want to be local for the first few acquisitions.
Do you mind if I share one of the flips you just did on Sherman? I think I can bring it up.
Sure.
Okay, let's see if I can share this. Only because I really like the work that you've done and the changes you make. Let's see. You are sharing. Can you guys see this?
Oh, yeah.
So this is the before and after.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, even the roof is the same, right? But it just looks different because of the paint.
Yes, the roof is the same. There wasn't, all the major components didn't have to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the flip.
Yes, it is.
This is on Sherman here.
Yeah.
Which,
Don't you wish you still had it?
This one especially because there's a detached garage, which could be a detached dwelling unit now, and a lot of other things that I pondered doing.
but look at this kitchen, and you took down this wall, which is great. Isn't that amazing?
That's beautiful.
Yeah, I really, from meeting you when at that time, I noticed your attention to detail. So I thought that was pretty cool. All those years ago. Yeah, this is good work.
Oh.
Now, are those are the same cabinets, right?
Those are the same cabinets, same backsplash, same granite countertops.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Really?
Yeah, and a lot of times people think that they have to change everything, but see, you used your resources well, and I like that.
Just the color and also that light gray really opened things up, a lot of light into the house.
Yes, I mean, I have a good photographer too, but it's still, at least I hope it matched when people walked in.
Yeah, that looks really nice.
Josh, you recall how much money you put in to accomplish that?
Yeah, so that was a very recent project. That just closed 2 weeks ago, so I know everything pretty much still. Purchased for $210, and funny story is I was set to close on that property for $218 March 30 of this year, and I got into contract February, end of February. It was a 30-day escrow, private seller, and everything happened in March, and I got spooked. And unfortunately, I had to tell her, so I couldn't get the private money loan that I needed for the property to end in March because they didn't want to loan me the money at the time. And I had to tell her that. And that's the first time that I had to back out on the contract. I felt bad, but she understood. And some time passed by. I called her again in June once I started seeing where the market was going and getting a feel for things. And we closed on June 28th, or June 28th. We closed, and we ended up closing at 210. I let her brother stay in the property. We worked out a few things. And from June to when I sold and when we went in the contract in September, some favorable comps around the area pushed my expectations of selling price even higher.
And is that the one that didn't appraise?
It didn't appraise, and I challenged it. I was pretty shocked because I spent a lot of time with data and facts and writing up a rebuttal, and there were some inconsistencies. But once they said no, we're not gonna change the price, I let it be. I didn't go to the buyer or ask the agent to chip in anything. I just let it be. I still got my full list price, and I figured, there's many more times to go around that I'll make up for it.
Let me ask you, when they did the appraisal on the list price, you didn't change the price in the MLS?
No, what do you feel about that? I just figure an appraiser, if they're going to see the property history, they'll see that it was raised right at the time before it went pending. I've seen that happen. Do you find that to work or better for you?
Well, my opinion is yes, because an appraiser sometimes doesn't know what the home sold for. So they go by, what they see on MLS. So I see a lot of times that people do raise the price in the MLS when they get a higher number. And I think that helps with the appraisal sometimes. Because I meet a lot of, do you meet appraisals when they come over and do the appraisal?
Yes, I meet them in this case, yeah, I do meet them. I think that's great to do. And I meet them in a nice manner. I don't try to tell them how to do their job. I printed out all the offers, highlighted that. I did a list of improvement. Also just some neighborhood information comps, so to speak, put it nicely. And I just say, here's some information. And usually they're open to it and we discuss it. And, and I let them be. I don't stay the whole appraisal, at least enough to introduce myself, give them the data, talk, and then let them lock up.
And did you give them comps?
I'm sorry?
I was asking if he gave him comps too.
Yes, I provided comps. Yeah. And there were some good comps.
Doug, let me ask you a question in regards to this situation particularly. Had Josh gone in to see you to do a refi based on a purchase price that's, let's say, less than a year since he bought it, do you still utilize purchase price plus upgrades in order to a certain extent establish value? And that would probably supersede comps in some way, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, what you would do is we would do that, just exactly what you said, Tom. We would do that, what the improvements were, and show the difference. I'm sure you'll get some value out of the improvement or whatever, and then they could use current comps in the neighborhood as well and come up with kind of a blended rate. So I don't know if you get dollar for dollar that you put into it. If it's a lot of it is cosmetic type stuff, but you would get some improvement and it would justify an increase from the original sales price. Yes.
Would you use the same approach on a flip? Yes.
Same approach on a flip. It's just, I believe on certain flips, if you're going, I think it's you're going FHA or whatever, it's a little harder to do that. It's got to be out of, title has to have been changed for 6 months. So there may be a time limit on that.
Did you know that, Josh?
No. You're saying the 6 months, you mean?
Yeah,
Is
if let's say the buyer was getting FHA financing or something on the property, and not to dissuade you from accepting FHA offers, but if if it goes into your name or your corporation's name, whatever you're doing, it needs to be in there for 6 months before they could put, you know, new updated financing on it for FHA.
Okay, I was aware of the 90-day rule. I didn't know it was 180 days now.
And I may be going off my fabulous memory, so it may be 90 days. I was thinking it was 6 months, but I've got a lot bouncing around in my head today. So I would just check that and just be aware of it. And I'll get back to you. I'll check it out right now.
Sure. I actually, you're right about the 180 day. I believe if you're selling it for more than 100% markup of your purchase price or more, I believe it's 6 months.
Right.
And I think 90 days is the standard, if I'm not mistaken, but that's a great reminder.
Standard, that's correct. Yeah. So that in order to get your maximum return on your investment and getting it, selling it, which is what you want to do, I think it's the 180. So.
Which is another good reason not to flip.
Mhm. Yes. I have a question for Tom or for Doug. If Doug is correct me if I'm wrong. If I purchased a house and now I want to refinance it, like the method Tom and I were discussing, the BRRRR, the seasoning is 6 months on title before I can cash out refinance. Is that correct? Okay.
Shook my head, yes, yeah.
Okay. If you find under 6 months, there's a lot of people that are ready to go.
Right. And then you're also looking at, as far as the cash out, again, it's on investment property rather than owner occupied, unless you are moving into it, like Tom was talking earlier about moving in, holding them, or I think it was Carmen too, and then flipping them. Will adjust your cash out down if you're doing regular conventional and 1-to-4 financing through Fannie and Freddie.
You know, I guess the bottom line is, and Josh, I think you've already concluded that with me. There's no money in flipping.
Short term, but not, like you said.
We got to pay taxes on it.
Pardon me?
You got to pay taxes on it. Normal.
Yeah.
It's normal income. You're just working yourself to death for somebody else. I'm glad you do that anymore.
Yeah. I've learned something is every house I sell, I'm losing money.
You are.
Doesn't it help to have the corporation though, to filter money through and then pay out?
Yes, it does, but in the larger picture, I think the way to go is, and the reason why you guys are holding rental properties is that I think that's the long term, or at least should have been my focus a lot sooner than later.
And then Alice has to leave. Alice joined us today. Hi, Alice. She has an appointment.
Hello.
Nice to see
Yes,
you.
thanks for letting me into the group, but I do have an appointment, so I need to dash off.
Okay, Alice, we'll talk soon. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. And there's John Thor. John, what is going on the commercial side of things? Have you, I think we went over Leslie Appleton's financial forecast last meeting, and things look a little scary for commercial.
It's still really good. I got to tell you, mine's off the charts, probably best it's been in years. Have no idea why. I think a lot of it has to do with clients causing this big drop in the stock market, taking profits out and putting it into real estate. Almost all the deals are cash. I have one client's probably going to be liquidating $30 million worth of local real estate, and he's already bought a house in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. He's taken his family, his 3 kids, and their grandkids, and everybody, and building 4 nice houses up in Coeur d'Alene. He's sick of California.
Yeah, everybody.
Up and he's pissed off, so he's going to go correct that.
Yeah, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is going to have a big population from California pretty soon. I think everyone is moving out there.
Well, there, Tennessee, Colorado, all over. I mean, it's just a mess here, and they're not telling us the truth about how many are. But we all know people who have, and so I know the numbers. You know, when the governor says people are coming in, I think that might not be true. But it's just bizarre. I mean, up in Oakhurst, everything's selling. I mean, I sold a rodeo grounds, you know, for $1.5 million. It's probably worth 100 maybe. Buildings, everything. A Sears building up there. I've got 3 calls on it. Already got a letter of intent in 1 day. I have 3 fourplex at Shaver Lake, and the grocery store, the property the grocery store's in, and a hotel, and all 3 of them have offers on them. And 2 of them are in escrow already, and they haven't even gone on the market yet, just from word of mouth. So it's crazy. Everything's selling. I know Roger, I've been spending a lot of time with him, and Tom knows. I mean, his hotel business with this housing authority is just over the edge, and we're opening up a couple new markets we've got to go meet with that. From Roger's work on that, other municipalities have heard about him, and so he's just totally overwhelmed.
I know I talked to him like a week ago. I think the housing authority is buying upwards of 30 million or 20-some million dollars.
Yeah, well, and they just found, governor a couple weeks ago found another 55 million somewhere. So, you know, the problem is they're overpaying for all these things along 99. And they're going to convert them all, and they're in them north of $300,000 a unit when they get them converted. So that's a lot of money. So, you know, through the mostly East Indian population of owners down there, the word spreads real quick that you can get a really high price for your hotels because it's free money, government money.
It's yeah, the taxpayers are paying for that.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't know. I think Roger told me you pay 25% of your income unless you have no income, up to 25% of your income. But if you have no income, then you don't pay anything. If you see what the housing authority does, you can look right across from the Veterans Hospital, that big development they built there. That thing is off the charts beautiful. I mean, the units are beautiful, the Olympic pool, all computer rooms, things for the kids, and a lot of people aren't paying anything for them. So you might want to think about going that way if business drops, because it's a beautiful installation. It's huge.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember the housing authority made an offer on some units that I was selling, and I thought to myself, why in the world are they making an offer on this property? It doesn't make any sense. And they ended up not buying it because it was too costly for you know, the price of it at what it was and all that they had to do. It was just a ridiculous amount.
Yeah, they're just crazy, but you have to, there's another big one that Roger did that sold, and the guy that bought it got $15 million from the government to buy this hotel, big one, and rehab it. And he doesn't have to pay it back. It's a 5013C3 corporation you have to have, and you have to be sponsored by the municipality. So if you have connections in some of those kinds of properties, you know, old apartment buildings or anything that are really a mess, you got to talk to Roger and get in line to collect a lot of money for it.
Yeah, turn up your volume a little bit, John.
Pardon me?
Can you turn up your volume a little bit? You're a little light.
I don't know. My 8-year-old grandson's in the other room, or he could tell me how.
We can hear you, but it's just a little faint.
Okay. I'll talk louder. How's that?
That's good.
Okay. So it's good right now. Portland just passed a new law night before last. I don't know if you read about that, but they now, if you have even a single family house and it's a rental and you want to raise your rent, you have to give the tenant 90 days notice for them to decide if they can afford to pay the rent. If they say they can't pay the rent, then you get to write them a check for between $2,900 and $4,500. So they have money to go relocate. So that's really nice. So I'm sure Newsom will figure out that that's a real way to screw people over, and maybe that'll come this way.
Where
But
is this, Portland?
Portland.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
did you guys listen to Gov yesterday? Gov Hutchins.
I heard.
Yeah, you know, he was talking, I had asked, you know, where is all the help for the landlords? Because, you know, there's not a lot of help for us, but there's so much for tenants. And he says you can do a forbearance as a landlord. And as a landlord, I cannot do a forbearance. If I did a forbearance, I couldn't refinance anything. I couldn't buy anything, you know, so that's not really an option, especially for realtors, right?
I got to tell you, I happened to be in the doctor's office, and Angie had him on her cell phone. I was very discouraged. I found minimal, if anything, that was encouraging to we as investors and having to deal with this pandemic. And it basically, and I mentioned this in the past, it basically reinforced the idea I had. I need to change the way I do business. If I need to rent a piece of property, let a property manager do it. Let them do it, pay them whatever their fee is, and then start doing what you're supposed to be doing once you've got it. Let me see. So basically, utilize the resource. You're going to have to give up some income. Chances are, and I have no idea what they all charge, but I think you can safely say it's going to be at least 50% of the first month's rent.
Yeah, and 10% after that usually.
Oh, no, take it back and manage it yourself. After it's managed, after it's rented.
Yeah, just have them get you the tenant.
What, honey?
Yeah, just have them get you the tenant.
Just have the property manager get the tenant for you.
Mm-hmm.
And once it's rented, the documentation has been prepared. Go ahead and assume the responsibility as the landlord. But I know what it. Then you come across an individual, God bless, that has having problems with this horrible, horrible disease, and they can't pay the rent. Take it to your lawyer. Not from the standpoint of trying to be hard, from the standpoint of making certain that what we're doing is correct. So if you need a tenant, you're looking for a tenant, let another professional do it, property manager. If you have a place that you own and is rented, and for whatever reason they've decided they're not going to pay, whether it has anything to do with COVID-19 or not, immediately don't get involved with serving now the 15-day to pay or quit. Don't do that. Let guys like Bob, yeah. Because I can guarantee you, we're not qualified. And it's going to bite us.
Mm-hmm. Good idea. Any other comments about that, guys?
I know, Angie, and in fact, you had asked me if Angie and I have rented our house that we bought out in the Northwest, out around Brawley and Bullard.
Mm-hmm.
No, not. So it's been vacant about a month. When we rent, it'll probably be around $2,000. But you know, I'm in no hurry. And believe you me, I have a property manager looking for tenant. I'm not looking for tenant at all. She is.
Mhm.
And when she finds one, we'll rent it. We'll go to the next one.
Well, hopefully it'll be sooner than later.
You know that's true because we're paying all the expenses, but that's okay.
Let me see. I'm going to share, hopefully it'll work. I'm going to share an article that Dennis sent. Where's Dennis? There's Dennis. You know, Dennis, I had somebody send me a referral yesterday of reverse mortgage, someone that needed to sell their home. So now I have to figure out, because on reverse mortgages, I think on the paperwork, they put in the max amount they can get. So sometimes we don't know exactly what the loan is on those. And I haven't talked to the homeowner, so I have to figure out if they do indeed have equity and are able to sell that reverse mortgage.
Yeah, love to help you sit down with a client, whether it makes sense or not, but love to sit down with you and discuss that with you, Carmen.
Okay, sounds good. But how are things going on that respect? This certain owner, they passed away, so the family's selling the property. So I think they only have a specific period of time. Not sure if it's 30 to 60 days to go ahead and sell the property if they do have equity in it.
Okay, you actually legally they have up to 1 year, but
Oh, 1 year.
within 90 days they have to make a decision as far as the servicer what they want to do. They also have an option they want to purchase and pay off what is due on it, and then they get like roughly 95% of the appraised value of the home. But I would just start looking at options to sell you as a listing agent, something like that. So once it's sold and paid off whatever the reverse mortgage is, and the loan, the money proceeds would go, then go to the heirs or the trustee, whoever is involved, the family.
Mm-hmm.
But what we'd have to do is take a look at the, and Peggy can chime in too, take a look at the last statement to see what might be owed, talk to the servicer and so on. So yeah, you just have to get some sort of dialogue going with that servicer, but it's a fairly easy process.
Okay, I've done one before, but it was pretty simple. So hopefully this one will be too.
I'm sure it will be.
Dennis, in regards to a reverse mortgage, and the mortgage exceeds the value.
Yep.
Owners have died. Will the holder of the reverse mortgage agree to a reduction on sale? Or what do they do in a case like that?
Okay, it's just a non-recourse loan, meaning that the heirs or whoever would be they would not have to make up the difference. So there's no, the kids or family and else would not have to make a difference. So they can sell it at whatever price, and the mortgage insurance would pick up the difference on that.
So they can do a short sale. I'm not sure if that's where you were getting to.
Yeah, they can do a short sale, sure.
Okay.
Any other questions on that out there? Let me share an article here that Dennis sent. Okay, so home ownership is growing, especially among younger age groups. And this is just from this week. The US homeownership rate is in the third quarter, fell back slightly from prior quarter. The second quarter saw the highest level of homeownership since second quarter of 2018. So I wonder if they take into account, you know, the lack of inventory. Homeownership is in the third quarter, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, was 67.4% and 0.5% decrease from the previous period, but from 64.8% in the quarter of 2019. So that's a little bit of a change. The rate ties with the second quarter of 2019 as the second highest rate since the onset of housing crisis. The rate was highest in the Midwest and the South at 71.2%, and 70% of substantially lower Northeast was from 62% to 62.1 for all regions posted annual increases. I wonder if that's because a lot of people are moving out of the areas and going over to the Midwest. The rate increased for all age groups, and from those under 35 jumped for 37% to 37.5 in the third quarter of last 2 years. Okay, let's see. And 35 to 44-year-olds rose 3 points to 63.9. So it looks like increases all aboard, throughout the board. And here we have national vacancy was 6.4% for rental housing and 0.9% for homeownership housing compared to 6.8% and 1.4% respectively. So it looks like we had increases in the homeownership, in the vacancy, and not in the owner occupied. Could that have, I think that might have something to do with the crisis, I would say. What do you guys think about that? I don't see too much happening with the rental market here. I think it's still pretty strong. Tom, I'm surprised you haven't rented out that home over there, but I suppose in the Fig Garden area, if people were going to pay $2,000, you know, that almost equates to a mortgage, right, Doug?
Oh, I agree, but just Angie and I have had the opportunity to rent it already. But we're not just interested in renting it for the sake of renting it. We want to rent it to a long-term tenant that has shown us on paper and through credit worthiness that they're going to be there for a while. I'm not interested in moving somebody in today and out in 4 months. We're interested in moving somebody in, although I didn't check with Angie on this, but even if it meant not getting 2,000, maybe I only get 1,850.
Well, they were willing to pay the price.
And the other people that we turned down were willing to pay the price. But they had a previous bankruptcy and a couple other things. And the bankruptcy was a few years back. Mother was moving from out of state into Fresno. And the daughter was buying the house with the master bedroom downstairs that she could live in, that the mother could live in, and she could stay upstairs. But if anything were to happen to mom, the daughter couldn't afford to pay the rent. So
right.
There were just too many possibilities that would be not good for us to rent the house. So it's still vacant. It was shown a couple of times this week, and I don't know what's going on. It's a beautiful home, gated community. Painted inside, new floor covering, new appliances, fireplace insert. It's a beautiful piece of property.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll go quick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Josh, see, those are some of the things we have to deal with when you have the rentals. But I'm glad that you're using a property management company so that you know, it's such a headache sometimes to have to you know, find a tenant ourselves. And you're right, a lot of property management companies, they will work with you on getting the tenant in. Some of them will, you know, just do that and be okay with that.
Do you manage, so you use a property manager, Carmen, for your
No,
property?
I don't, but I probably should. I since 1998, I've done them all myself, and I haven't had any trouble, knock on wood, ever with any tenants. And so far, so good. But right now, I'd like to get more into the units. I have a couple units, but I like to get to, you know, buy more, maybe 5-plex, 10-plex. But I have to say, I do like the having the single family residences. I think there's more control over that than when you have multiple units.
I agree. Well, you know, Carmen, from the standpoint of what we're doing, and we just started doing this after all these years, we do not, as I mentioned earlier, when a place is vacant, we let the property manager get the next tenant. And we just started doing this within the last 6 months or so. And
But
then
at the same time, Tom, how many vacancies do you have? I don't think you really come up.
just that one.
Yeah.
Just that one.
But over time, I think most of your tenants are long-term.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, one of the things that we do, we didn't need the state of California to pass a rent control measure. We have our own built-in rent control measure, in particular with long-term tenants. I know most landlords says, no, I run it like a business. I keep every year, I increase rent X%. I don't. Or Angie does. I don't have anything to do with it. We've had tenants, I have one tenant on a building that we bought basically 25 years ago. She had been in there 2 or 3 years before that point. She's still there. I'm not going to increase. I don't need the money.
Not right now.
Not right now. I don't need the money. So we have minimal. I cannot remember the last time. Yeah, we've had one tenant turnover in our 15 rentals in the last, I know, 5+ years. We don't have turnover.
Yeah, same here. Most of my tenants are there. I think the newest one I bought was 5 years ago, and it's been rented 4 years with the same tenant.
Sure.
And, usually when the homes are being worked on, you have people stopping by asking about, you know, whether it's going to be for sale or rent. So a lot of them get rented even before I have to post anything on them.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, that's the way to, and you know, communicate with your tenant. Realize that your tenants live in the same world you're living in. Realize that you might have a tenant that has a job in a business that has been negatively affected by COVID-19. Ange and I called that tenant in and says, I want to know, are you okay? Is there anything we can do to help you? No, I said, well, anyway, you know, Ange and I did something anyway, because she's the only tenant that I've ever had in the house.
Since 1996.
Since 1996. She's been in there for 24 years. In fact, I bought the house for $85,000. How much we owe on that?
I don't know.
About 100 and some thousand. She pays. She pays the gardening. She pays everything. And even with the money we pulled up, which is over and above the purchase price, I'm not going to abuse that person. So maintain an aggressive line of communication with your tenant.
And so that's smart what Tom is doing. He's leveraging his properties by refinancing them, right? And buying new property.
Yes, although
Not anymore.
not anymore. The piece of property we just bought out in the Northwest we're trying to rent was a 1031. In fact, that was the first piece of property that Ange and I bought in Fresno. And all of a sudden, the neighborhood is becoming a little questionable. So she decided she was going to sell it. She sold it. She did a 1031, paid down about 160, 70,000 on the house that we replaced it with. Now our rent will be, instead of, let's say, 1,500, will be 2,000, and our mortgage payment is going to be less because we just rolled the money into the house we bought. But she was right. See, I don't fall in love with real estate. If I have a piece of property that's performing well for me, I don't necessarily have to move in there to prove to the world that, man, I don't own a piece of property I wouldn't live in. I do. I have a piece of property that I own that I wouldn't live in. I wouldn't want to live in. And so I've got, in fact, I have tenants that want to buy the houses that they've been renting for the last 10 plus years, and I don't want to sell it. I don't want to sell them.
You know, that's funny. I've had rentals where I've exchanged into them, and I've had tenants come and say, can we purchase the home in so-and-so years? And I've actually done it a couple times. And on one, it was just amazing how that grew. The tenant bought the house. 2 years later, they called me to buy another property, and I exchanged that home for a duplex and another single family. But the tenant kept bringing business. They bought a second home a couple of years ago, and then gave me their mother who bought a home in the neighborhood and their brother who bought a home in the neighborhood. So exponentially, the business just kept growing just from the one. You know, I felt like it was a good thing to do because they had family in the neighborhood. And it didn't hurt me any to sell that piece of property, and I was able to change it for 2.
Hear that, Josh?
I did. I'm listening.
Yeah.
Start with one and exchange up.
Yeah, sometimes, you know, that's a possibility. And I understand sometimes with the economy and the market, sometimes, you know, you can't do that. But, Josh has had opportunities that many of us haven't experienced. I haven't done flipping only because I'd have to be on site. When I have a project, you know, when I buy something, I call it a project because I have to make sure the workers are there working and doing the job. And if you don't show up sometimes, you know, they may not be doing exactly what you want them to do or even working sometimes. So it's a big responsibility to have a flip and make sure that everything is going on track, and it's a big expense.
Mary,
Do you work with a contractor at all on some of your homes, or just you and your husband do it, Carmen?
Well, my husband doesn't do anything. I work with he teaches, so his thing is, Carmen, buy what you want. I don't want to hear about the house, and I don't want to see the house. But, you know, sometimes when we buy them, he does have to see them before we close at least, so that he knows, you know, what we're getting, because it is a big responsibility. It is a big risk. And we do know that, you know, something can happen. It may not work out, or, you know, who knows. Sometimes when we bought homes, like you mentioned, Josh, at the auction, you know, you buy them, you see the exterior, you can't even see the inside, and they could have people in them. And we're just going by numbers, and we understand that, you know, you could probably replace a roof, you could have interior issues, electrical issues, who knows. I bought one once where I came into it and the air conditioner didn't come on. So we have to program the budget for things that could happen. And thankfully for us, a month, maybe 2-3 weeks in, we left the air conditioner on and it came on, but it hadn't come on because it was off for so long. And I think it needed to, I don't know,
rejuvenate.
Something, yeah. So we were very lucky, you know, that we didn't have to spend, you know, $5,000-$7,000 on a new AC, but those are the risks you can take sometimes.
Even on an auction, Carmen, don't you do your own home inspection before you close?
No, some of them you can't even get into them. They're bought, and there could be tenants in there. You can't disturb the tenants.
There's tenants in there?
Sometimes, yes.
You're brave.
Yeah, I've only done that twice, but like Josh says, when it's not as much now at the courthouse, especially right now, they're not doing evictions with the foreclosures. So that's been postponed probably until February is what I hear from some of the REO agents. But when you go there, you see all the same guys all the time. They look a little intimidating, right?
Play poker face with them.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Oh, Paul Hinkle showed up. I don't know if there's anything else that we need to worry about with propositions out there. He usually keeps us up to date. But regarding the for a lot of us that own homes in Fresno, you know, they had that meeting for the general plan. And I did contact someone at the city. We're supposed to have someone talk about that, but they tabled a lot of their meeting notes, so we couldn't have any resolve on what was passed or not passed for 2 weeks ago. And John, I know you do a lot of things with the casino people, right? Is there anything happening because of the loss of business up there?
No, you know, they're doing okay. They're open. I mean, I have a lot of friends that are car dealers and stuff there. So you know, their business is still okay. It's still packed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they don't seem to have, I don't know if they have to abide by any of the laws, but a lot of the people don't wear masks in there, and they smoke in there now. I know they cut that out when they first came back online, but now you can smoke in there and everything. So, but they're doing okay. They're still poking around. They have a bunch of money. They're looking for housing and apartments and things like that. So they get about $1 million a year from the feds to buy housing. They found a tenant for their gas station there right by the casino. Sonic, I think, is going in there. So, what's going on?
Yeah, that's good. Did you sell them that gas station?
They're getting ready to start on the one in Madera here pretty soon. So that'll take a few years, but it's a huge $250 million casino.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was 9:52. We didn't even get to Doug about the rates. You know, with the stock market taking, I wouldn't say it tanked, but it did lose a lot of money this week. Did that affect the rates being charged to the future buyers?
Are you talking about the federal discount rate or an increase or decrease?
No, the federal discount rate, they said they wouldn't, Powell said he wouldn't change that, but because when the stock market takes such a beating, it affects what the lenders charge the buyers, right, Doug?
Right. Rates have gone up this week. Today, the T-bill is about 0.857, I think, before I got on with you guys. So, yeah, so rates have gone up, and I just think they're very uncertainty, and things will be a little dicey until Tuesday, and it could even get dicier depending on the outcome. So we're in some kind of, you know, turbulent times temporarily. Long term, I think things will settle back down once everybody figures everything out.
But I think it probably was affected too because wasn't it Germany or what company closed down? Is starting to close down again because they had a resurgence of COVID.
Most of Europe. Europe is Italy's closing, Germany's closing down, and England's even closing down, and France is in a total lockdown due to terrorism and COVID.
And after that, I think that's when I saw the market really changed quite a bit. But you're right, the election will affect it also. So we'll see what happens on Tuesday.
Doug, are you seeing anything on the new SOFR that FHA is going to be using? Are you getting any feedback, or the people you're working with, any rates for SOFR at all yet?
Dennis, you cut out on me, so I didn't hear the whole question.
I was talking about SOFR, the new rate by FHA. Are you seeing any rates coming across from the people you work with, rates using SOFR?
Not really.
So they've gone away from LIBOR now?
Right, they've gone from LIBOR, and I think they're going to try to come up with some other rate or go towards more T-bill, but I haven't seen real volatility in that as of yet. So I think with everything else going on, it may be happening, but it slipped in under the guise of COVID, recovery, election. So.
Okay, just thought you might be aware of it because we're going with one index right now, reverse mortgage. We'll probably go to SOFR next year sometime. So LIBOR is being out at the end of 2021. So all loans, mortgage, some exception of jumbo, but we'll be converting over to another indices. Actually effective right now.
And how does that affect the rate? Probably shouldn't affect.
Actually, they're in parallel to LIBOR, and also so it could be a win-win situation for the client. So we're not seeing anything deviation. Actually, it's going to be a little bit less. So there's going to be a benefit to the homeowner or whoever would be the buyer on the FHA on the reverse mortgage program.
Dennis, right now the reverse mortgage funding is going to CMT. We have to have everything in by October 22nd, and I've only got one that's got a problem getting there. So I don't know if they're going to switch next year or not, but it's the same as the LIBOR basically.
Yeah, it'll be like Peggy said, CMT, and there is some speculation it might eventually go to SOFR. So we'll see more about that as time goes on, but it's just right the next 60, 90 days, we'll really see what area that would be going as far as either a 5-year or a 10-year, month-to-month adjustable or an annual adjustment or a fixed rate. So
the month seems to be better right now on the CMT.
Correct. Actually, it's more beneficial to the buyer, and even though it can go up 10%, it's parallel. Actually, they were with CMT prior to going LIBOR back in 2006 or 2007. So it's not necessarily a new index that they're using. It's now this is a little bit more stable for everybody.
It's good. It's good as long as we're in a low interest rate environment like right now. But if rates start to really move up, that could be disastrous to the elderly and seniors with those programs.
Actually, they've done like a 10-year analysis, and it's better than LIBOR, so it's still going to be beneficial for the homeowner.
Well, RMF still has one. They just came out with a max 5, so right. It's 5 over, so it's not as bad as the 10.
I'd have to look at that. But they had that previously, so it's nothing. They're reintroducing it, but we'll see what happens. It'll all pan out eventually.
In the end.
Dennis and Peggy, why would anyone take out an ARM loan in this environment, the environment we've had over the last few years? Why would they do that?
You get more money.
Yeah, you can only get so much money out of a fixed rate, and you're leaving a lot on the table. You want a line of credit that's going to grow over time, so that's more beneficial to the client.
Yeah, the fixed rate, Tom, you only get 60% of what you might qualify versus 100%. So you can get 60% on the adjustable the first year, and then the other money is available to you at 1 year and a day. So there's many more benefits. Like Peggy said, the line of credit growth, tax-free. It's really a win-win situation for the borrower. But a lot of people we're tuned to think about fixed rate, but in a reverse mortgage or the home equity conversion program, it really hurts the homeowner. It doesn't benefit them at all. That's part of Peggy and our job is educate people on that, Tom. So we sit down. By law, we have to have a proposal has 3 different proposals. It has to be a fixed, adjustable. And then when we show it to the homeowner, the buyer, then they can see the difference. We make them make the decision. But I think like 90, 95% or even more other people choose the adjustable and the reverse mortgage.
When you do the comparison, what do you use as a comparison for an ARM loan as compared to a fixed rate loan? It's not, I wouldn't think would be your start rate, but how far down into the fully indexed position do you go in comparing those payments?
Well,
Okay, go ahead, Kate.
there's certain margins and rates
Right.
that'll give you the best deal. So some margins, no matter what you do, will never give you any more money, and some it'll take it away. So you kind of set the margin where that's the best for the client. And that's also with fixed rates. They have several fixed rates that you could go by, but there's always one rate that gives the client more money.
Right. What we do, Tom, roughly 2.25 is the sweet spot for the homeowner. So that gives them the biggest bang for the buck. Whereas the other companies work for AAG, they'd be probably about 3.25. They charge the max on everything. So Peggy and I are brokers, so we can pick and choose whichever program is best to the greatest benefit for the homeowner. And then we explain that to them. And so it's, for us, we wanted a win-win for them, not necessarily me. I might take a loss or to get less money for the hope that, the service and so on, and the referral business comes in later on. So that's the hope for us.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have one right now that the appraisal came in low. So I'm giving up a bunch of my commission to close the deal because the client needs the loan and she's got to have it done. And I had to have a second appraisal and it came in 75,000 lower.
See, that's the benefit Peggy and I have. We can give and take. Like what she's doing, I've done, my partner have done. We'll sacrifice for the benefit of the client because we feel so confident that's a great product for them. Otherwise we wouldn't be doing it. So we'll eat or absorb, maybe even make no money on it just to help the client. We want them to do it because we have just a faith of what it can do for the person 62 years and older. It's a life-saving event for them. And particularly as we mature, we're getting to that age where health is a big concern. So health is going to be the biggest out-of-pocket expense. So where are you going to get that money other than savings and to deplete savings, or go through use your financial advisor, sell off stock, have tax consequences. So this is not as a cure-all, but at least it's an option that should be considered in everyone's situation for a senior that has some equity.
That makes sense, especially now that people actually do have some equity in their properties.
Right. Rule of thumb, roughly is about 50%. We are, like Peggy said, we always work off of the age of the youngest borrower, but that's part of our working with them to let them know what they qualify for. Some instances they might even have more. And we had a case where a guy had a $24 million home in Corona Del Mar. He pulled out $4 million, gave one child $2 million, another child another $2 million. So it's not necessarily for the low-hanging fruit or someone that's destitute. We have people worth millions of dollars, or even $1.5 to $2 million. So that's sort of like the sweet spot, where we can really help benefit and coordinate strategy with you as a realtor or financial planner, CPA, estate attorney, etc.
Yeah, and that's it. So that sounds like another tool where, what you just mentioned, they can take that money and, do something useful with it as far, even.
Guess what they can do? They can buy a home.
Yes.
Or a second home.
$4 million.
Investment property. So it's a win-win for all the realtors that are listening. So it's a good tool. A lot of the realtors are not aware of it. It's been around for about 10 years now, but it can be great for even divorce situations, where one of the divorcees might want to keep the home so they can buy out the other person. And then with the equity that's there and the other person has money, then he or she then can buy another property. So it could be like a double win for a realtor or a divorce attorney. So there are a lot of different options that, we can definitely look at the scenarios Peggy and I can for you.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Anything else, Tom, before we go? I want to say, Josh, thank you for coming and, enlightening us with what you're doing and Nice to be able to share some of your work because, you know, I was impressed back when I first met you and I still am. So I'm glad you were able to make it in.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for your input, and I learned as well.
Yeah, we all do. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, nothing. Thank you very much. Very enjoyable meeting. A lot of great information, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Okay, thank you guys and have a great weekend, okay? Take care. We'll see you next week.
Bye, Mike.
Happy trick or treating.
Yeah.